Hello, I'm Sam Leith, and I'm the author of The Haunted Wood, A History of Childhood Reading, which is a book, new out in paperback, in which I've attempted the, some would say, madly hubristic project of providing a sort of overview of the whole history of children's literature, from the myths of the oral tradition right up to Philip Pullman, the Harry Potter stories, and Julia Donaldson. And in the process, what I've tried to do is to say that these stories are not just a sidebar or a kind of prequel to grown-up reading. They're the most important reading that any of us does in our life because everything else is built on them. And in the course of my survey, I've gone through all sorts of kind of fascinating and strange little, forgive me, rabbit holes, from the sort of austere Puritans of the 18th century who, starting from the premise that children were, radioactive with original sin, thought that the job of children's writing was to scare them witless and save their souls. And then into, of course, the big bang of modern children's literature in the middle of the 19th century with stories like Alice's Adventures in Wonderland, or The Water Babies, or Tom Brown's School Days, which suddenly kicked off this period when children's literature could be something that would be seen as fun rather than simply a means of saving souls. And from then, the whole story moves on to, for instance, the Edwardians, where to me that's this wonderful pivot between a sort of children's stories that fetishise children as sacred innocents, ones that started to show them as they really were, naughty, mischievous, and sometimes unruly. Stories like E. Nesbit's wonderful Bastable stories, or, of course, the immortal Peter Pan by J.M. Barrie, and The Wind in the Willows. And at the same time, I wanted to look at the strange and sometimes sad lives of the people who wrote so well for children, because quite often that children's writing was answering some sort of psychic need. And I try and talk about the way in which the history of the outside world presses in unexpected ways on children's writing itself, how the trauma of wartime emerges often very obliquely in what's written for children. And in the process of writing this book, I came to realise that the story of children's writing isn't just a literary history. It is, in its way, the story of childhood itself.